Hey, this is Corey, the Yard Buddha, and it is time to clean some deck furniture. This is all teak furniture that I've had for quite a while. Here's some lounge chairs, and I have a big folding out table here. This one's probably at least, I don't know, 25 years old. And I have 6 teak chairs that go around it also. And I'll tell you, the biggest secret is just to keep it covered during the winter. I usually put this under a tarp, and I haven't done anything yet to it this year, and it still stayed pretty light. You'll notice if it gets wet, if you leave it outside, it'll kind of turn that dark gray color. I've got a couple spots like on this lounge chair here where it does turn gray, and at that point you may want to consider sanding it. But all I'm going to do with this year is power wash it and stain it. So if there are some gray spots here or there, I may give it kind of a light sanding with 150 grit. But this is kind of my annual process with these chairs. Usually they're only used on the handrails and the bottoms, and so I usually don't have to even power wash that much anywhere else. Maybe occasionally, like in between the slats and stuff, they need a new layer of teak oil, and that's kind of what I'm going to use on this teak wood. And we will see how it goes. There really is no other cleaning necessary besides that, but kind of the biggest secret is to try to keep them inside over the winter, keep them covered, and they will last forever. So let me get everything off of this deck here, and I'll show you some power washing. Alright, so I just got done power washing and everything went great. I think that I actually am not going to have to sand anything this year. There might be a couple spots. I do have a little cup mark right there, a little burnt mark right there that I might try to sand out, but this teak is so dense that it's still really smooth, even with the power of that pressure washer. So I probably got about 6 inches away from it, and it still just took off like a thin layer of everything. So I mainly am just worried about the arm slats and the seats and stuff, and a lot of these things are going to be covered up with the cushions anyways, so you really don't need anything that super smooth. And the last thing that I'm going to do is just let this sit out here for a day and dry out, because you really don't want any moisture in your wood when you're putting down that teak oil. So, and the biggest tip I probably should have given everybody at first is to buy a pair of these Crocs, $30 Crocs, that are solid and waterproof and super comfy. You can slip in and slip out of and get into your yard. I'm very happy that I did it on the deck here. I'm gonna move all this stuff out off the deck to stain, because I'm actually gonna stain the deck with not a teak oil, with a different type of oil, so I don't want those mixing. So I'll move all this furniture out into the yard, and I'll show you how I stain it. Okay, so I've let the wood dry out overnight. All my furniture is out here now on my lawn because that's where I want to do the staining. And now that it's dry, it should be nice and receptive to the oil. I did just do some light sanding of a few spots here and there, but for the most part, these have just been power washed. There was a couple arms on my chairs too that I did. So you kind of want to do this on a not so sunny day so that the teak oil just doesn't dry super fast. I've made the mistake of doing this like in a direct sunlight hot day, maybe like 80s and stuff, and the oil just dried way too quickly and became sticky and really hard to get off. So today's a nice breezy day, so it should help at the drying process, but not too quickly. It's probably about 65 degrees, so that's about what you want. And overcast is nice too. I'm going to be using this teak oil here by Watco. I've got a little bit left over from last year, which should be fine. I stored it in my garage, so we'll use that up. And usually I use about 3/4 of a can on this table, 6 chairs and 2 lounge chairs. And I did find that if these are new and they've never been oiled before, you're probably going to use about twice as much. So if you are sanding all your chairs every year, you're going to end up probably applying a lot more oil, just because these ones already kind of have a thin coating on it, and so it doesn't absorb as much as if they were just brand new. So plan on that. And then my plan here is just to give them a light coating, wait about 30 minutes for the bulk of it to absorb, and then you just want to have a rag or something to, after those 30 minutes, wipe the table off and just make sure there's not puddles of the stain sticking on there. And I'll probably just do one coating and let it dry, and should be good to use tomorrow or the next day. So we'll show you how we stain. So I just finished the table here, and that is one coat that I put on. Just kind of waiting to let it dry out a little bit, and then I'll come by with my cloth and wipe everything down. So I think that's all it's going to take this year. It's just one coat. And I normally do the table, and then I'll do the chairs in another set, and then I'll do the lounge chairs in a third set, because I found if I start immediately from this and start doing the chairs right now, I usually forget the time, and by the time I come back to here, it's getting sticky. So you kind of just want to make sure that you are doing it the right way. If you do want to do a second coat, let's say it's brand new wood, then you would wait 30 minutes, you'd rub this off, and then you'd apply another coat and wait I think 15 or 30 minutes and do the same thing. And I just kind of got to where I could on the legs and some of the sides and stuff. I didn't, do underneath or anything, but I do think getting as many areas as you can benefits your wood in the long run, because this stuff does have some water protection in it. I don't know how much UV protection teak oil has in it, but definitely the moisture prevents this stuff from turning gray and rotting and drying out. Oh, there's my motorcycle. Come on, I almost got through this video without something crazy, but the Buddha, he knows difficulties are going to arise in life, and you just kind of, you accept them and keep on rolling. So that's what I do. All right, we'll show you once we have everything completed here what it looks like, but so far so good. Okay, I'm finally done with my staining project here. Got the table done, got my 6 chairs done and my 2 lounge chairs. And one thing I would highly recommend is doing this on a good day that's not too hot, not too cold. It was about probably 60 today, perfect. And that just makes it so the stain doesn't dry too fast. So I actually put another light coating on this table just because the little parts that I sanded didn't even out as nice as I wanted. But now with the second coat, everything is nice and even. And this is kind of the centerpiece of everything, so I wanted that to look good. But basically everything else I just did one coat on. Another thing you don't want to do is do it when there's any rain within like a day or so, because this is probably gonna sit out here for another day on my grass and dry. And I would definitely recommend doing it out on your grass and not on a driveway or anything, because you get quite a bit of spillage. But as you can see right now, my grass is in a state of remodeling, and if you do want to see that video, I'm doing a spring reseeding called Man vs. Poa. So right now it does not look very happy, but it will be. And this did take me a while, but you pretty much just have to spend one day to restain all the stuff per year to avoid trying to sand it. That's kind of what I'm trying to avoid. Is I think if you can maintain it by protecting it during the winter and then giving it a nice coat of teak oil each year, then you're not going to spend days of sanding, and that is a big pain, which I have done in the past. I did try to get in between all the slats and stuff, so it's kind of up to you how detailed you want to get in there. But to me, spending that time getting in there and protecting it and preventing the slats from breaking, that's kind of the weakest spot in all these chairs, is most important. I did figure out, I bought this set probably like 14 years ago, and if you've seen any of my videos, I buy everything from Costco, so I think these look pretty good for 14 years, and I haven't had very much break on them so far. So good. I did have a set of teak chairs about 20 years ago, and one of the slats broke, and it's almost impossible to replace one of the inner pieces in there unless you're a very good woodworker. So kind of just believe in maintenance, and like I said, it did take a while, but as Confucius says, it doesn't matter how slowly you go as long as you don't stop. And I got to enjoy a nice day out in my yard, listening to my neighbors' power equipment and some birds. And it kind of gives you time too to check out your yard and see where you want to plant stuff, where the sun's popping up around here. So I would definitely recommend wearing some rubber gloves. You will get dirty. And I did pretty much use an entire bottle of the teak oil on all of this, just because I did another coat on that. But I am going to try to do an experiment this year by putting a different stain. I know these both look the same, but actually I did teak on this one, and then on this one I'm going to use what I use on my deck, which is called Penifin. and it's an oil-based stain too, almost the exact same color, but it does offer some UV protectant. And so I'm wondering if that might prevent the graying out a little bit more than the teak oil does. And what is good about this stuff too is that it's a little bit thinner, so you really don't have to come back and wipe everything off like you do with the teak oil. But I do think the teak oil works good, and it probably is thicker and probably will last a little bit longer. Just a couple mistakes that I did make on these a long time ago. The very first year I got these, I actually put a solid cedar stain on a couple of these chairs, and you can kind of see there still is some remnants of it in there. I ended up having to use a stripper and strip all that stuff off. So you want to use a clear stain like a teak oil if you want to be able to see the grain in the wood, because that solid stain was just one kind of blank color. And so that was one mistake I used. And another one was when I did do it when it was raining, and I don't know if you can see, but there's some bubbles in the teak oil still from 2 years ago when kind of a shower storm popped out right as soon as I had oiled these, and it is still around, but they still look pretty good. So if you guys enjoyed these tips and learning from my mistakes, please stick around. I think I'm gonna stop asking for subscribes and likes, so you can tell that I enjoy being out in my yard. So if you want to see some more of these projects, come on back for some more. Thanks for watching.